Entrepreneurship, it's all game. The Big Potato Podcast is yours to claim. From startups to scaling up, we cover it all. So don't mess up. Monday nights, don't miss the show with Kendell and Stuart. Your time to grow, listen up, take notes and learn. The Big Potato Podcast, next gen's turn. It's next gen's turn. Next gen's turn.
Welcome to the Big Potato Podcast. Welcome. Happy New Year. We're glad to have you guys locked on, tuned in, streaming. Happy to have you here. My name is Kendell, and of course, my co-host Stuart is in the building. Stuarty, all things. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year to the listeners. Very excited to get this program started. Finally, we've been planning this for some time. Even now we have some little obstacles we overcoming at the last minute, but that's what entrepreneurs do, right? We pivot, we make the adjustments, and we push forward. So let's get the ball rolling.
So that's exactly what I was about to mention. Pivoting. This is an entrepreneurship podcast. We are here to help you guys with your entrepreneurial activities. And of course, we ourselves are experiencing some of the challenges that entrepreneurs usually experience. So we go in with the flow right now. This is the Big Potato Podcast. As we said, we empower young entrepreneurs for tomorrow's business landscape with light-hearted discussion on top-tier business insights and topics. So welcome to our listeners. As we said, this is where you want to be if you have a business that you're going to be starting. You're an entrepreneur out there. You're going to get your business off the ground in 2024. This is your new time. Well, welcome. Maybe you guys have your new goals for your business that is already established as an entrepreneur, or probably you're looking to link up a new business in 2024. Well, this is the podcast for you. We are going to give you the top tier insights. We analyze a lot of global cases, not just in the Caribbean or in Trinidad and Tobago, but a lot of the stuff happening around the world, because as we know, entrepreneurship is something that is from a global and worldly perspective. Stuart, when we're thinking about entrepreneurship, we're talking about the life of an entrepreneur, and that's what we're going to be discussing tonight.
Yeah, especially tonight, we really, as is the first episode, we want to start off sort of introductory, get the basics done so that in the future, we won't have to cover this stuff again. So in terms of our experiences, what brought us to become entrepreneurs, what an entrepreneur is, what some of the traits that we possess that make us entrepreneurial, and our journeys basically. That's what we want to cover. But in the future, we really want to dive in, as Kendall said, to fleshing out business ideas, seeing if there are business opportunities, seeing if it is you have an existing business, how you could squeeze more value out of it, especially with the economy and the trends, what the projections looking for 2024. You're definitely going to have to squeeze out more value. Revenue mightn't increase. So, you have to go the other way. So, yeah, I'm excited to share the knowledge, especially to the target group we're aiming to meet and educate, because I believe that this generation coming up, they have so many challenges that we need to really extend our helping hand and give them that step up, some education. And we're not here to teach people in terms of a full course. It's not a classroom. We're not taking out a pen and a notepad, but you just want to sprinkle some information, get the ideas out there, get the juices of the GenZs working, and let them see that there are opportunities in the entrepreneurial space.
And that's what I like about what you said, Stuart, because we're not here to teach or educate, I would say, but definitely to share knowledge, and for you guys to share knowledge with us as well. So make sure that you send us your questions, you send us your feedback, send us your thoughts. We're even going to have a segment going forward where we are going to be analyzing business ideas from you guys. So, if you have a business idea, you're actually going to get a free consultation with 2 experts or more that is going to help you to develop, analyze, assess your idea and see if there's a viable business opportunity and how you could approach it. So, this is sort of our social entrepreneurial and entrepreneurship program that we're running here. But we are excited. It's 2024. We've been talking about this for almost 2 years. We're really happy to finally get this off the ground. So enough about that. I know you guys want to know, well, who is Kendell? Who is Stuart? Well, we're going to tell you a little bit about that now. So Stuart, I'll let you lead off in terms of that, in terms of a little bit on your background and how exactly did you become an entrepreneur, your early stages, etc.
Well, I'll be as brief as possible because I'm reaching to a point in my age where if I go into my history, my bio, I might take a whole hour. So
Guess you remember the Gen Zs we talking to them call their grandpa.
that is it. I'm only 24. But yeah, so seriously, my background is entrepreneurship. I'm an entrepreneur of businesses. I've had businesses since 2008. I'm also an author, business consultant. I do a bit of everything. I find when people complain, I tell them I have 36 hours in a day. I get things done, so I'm always on the move. As an entrepreneur, you have to be able to get things done. So that's sort of my background, entrepreneurship, business consulting, and very recently I'm an author. So what got me into entrepreneurship, that is a story from when I would have been a little boy in primary school. My parents giving me allowance, but I have this G.I. Joe I want to buy, and I realized I could sell governor plums and make that money in a week. It was just mind blowing to me then. Well, you've been by me a couple of times. The governor plum trees in the back by me. So
Juicy.
And when you come down, the bag full, right? So for me in primary school, in standard 2, standard 3, to be able to make more money than I get in from my allowance, one, that's just surprising. And then to be able to buy things I want, with money I raise and generate my own, was just amazing to me. So that would have, I guess, sparked it in, I guess, both positive and negative ways, because, you have to break out of that generating money to buy toys thing. You have to start to get discipline as you move along, which is something I had to learn over time. So that's a bit of my experience in terms of what, I guess, from the initial stages would have triggered me into this entrepreneurship. The fact that I could actually sustain myself as a primary school boy, right? But buy things I wanted, raise funds, and not be reliant on my parents. Obviously, moving forward, and into my adulthood, I was an employee, I was managing a couple of businesses, and I never really found my talents being, how to put it, I never thought that I was living up to my potential. I am more a projects-driven guy. Give me this task.
Problem solver.
Yes. What we need to get done, let's get it done. We're getting it done quickly and properly, efficiently, effectively. But for me to sit down by a computer and just do the same thing over and over for the rest of my life until I retire, that wasn't an appealing vision for me at all. So a lot of things would have gone on in my past, in my history, that would have put me into this position. And then I was always around the right people. So one of my first business ventures was in entertainment when Chromatics, local hip-hop artist, Calypsonia now I should say. There's a nice song he just released this week.
An entrepreneur.
And he's an entrepreneur as well. And I like how you mentioned that, because those are the type of things we're going to discuss. Entrepreneurship, but from the entertainment industry, the sports industry, the tech industry, those sort of things, not just the regular thing, because again, we targeting the Gen Zs and what they will want to really take off in their futures. So we have to try to target them with things that they will be interested in. So yeah, so with Chromatics, Chromatics and I were neighbors as little children growing up, riding bike, skateboarding together. So when he started the hip hop, he wanted me to manage him. I started to manage him. That blossomed into us having a company called Highway Records. So that was my first venture, and that came about again because of the people I was around, that he wanted the manager. After a couple of months of discussing our strategy, we realized, well, we have to have our own company, our own studio, cut out middlemen, try and do certain things. So that would have been in 2008, and ever since then, I've opened probably about 3 businesses since then. Went through COVID, some of the businesses didn't survive, and some new businesses formed since then. So I'm a serial entrepreneur, always looking for opportunities, trying to see what are the best problems to solve. And that's a bit about my background. What about you?
And before I jump into my background, because mine is extremely brief,
right.
I really like the fact that you talked about some survived through COVID and some didn't, because that's something that we also going to be talking a lot about. How do you pivot? How do you try to save a business or realign it or do different things with it as an entrepreneur, where you don't have all the resources of these massive corporations in the world. Because we see some massive corporations went down as well, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so you just imagine you as just...
It's not a risk you normally were planned for.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, all good stuff that we definitely going to be talking about and touching on. Now, in terms of my entrepreneurial activity and my life as an entrepreneur, definitely over the years, I have always had the mindset of owning my own future, after God. So, God has blessed me with the mindset and the talent, and I wanted to have that autonomy to be able to really control how I make money in this world. And my earliest memories, just similarly to you, where you would have had, your insights in terms of primary school and selling your governor plums and so on and so on. Very early in my secondary school career, probably Form 1 or Form 2, I began really getting interested in the entertainment aspect of life. And from a promotions point of view, from a DJ point of view, etc. And I started to carve myself out in that space as an entrepreneur, even as young as that, really even approaching some of the big media houses from that age and trying to do innovative projects with them. I remember at the time, I guess Synergy some mileage, they would have been on the scene more so at that time, and they wanted new talent and new crafts, and there were some ideas that I pitched to them, in terms of my ideas. It didn't work out for me, but I saw it work out for other people. And that's the whole thing about entrepreneurship as well. You realize that sometimes the timing of what you're trying to do is very, very, very important, whether you have a first mover or second mover advantage. And those things would be important to know as an entrepreneur as well. So that would be for me why it is I got into it and some of my early memories. Since then, of course, I did continue on with my entertainment career, my DJ career, career in promotions, career in events. All the while, still, as similar to you, working for some of the largest corporations in Trinidad. I would always boast to people and tell them I've worked for the 2 largest conglomerates in this country at the same time. I don't even know if they knew that was happening, but I feel like, that is water under the bridge now. So I could let that cat out of the bag. But it's not for the faint-hearted, because as an entrepreneur, you would find that you still have to find the time to do what you need to do for your business. All the while you're working for somebody else. And I know a lot of our folks who are listening as well to this podcast, they're in that sort of position. You're trying to get your business off the ground, but you have a 9 to 5, you have a 8 to 4 with a lot of deliverables. And that was the case for me for a large portion of my life. Now, what I liked about my jobs at the time, which is why I never really left them at the time, is that they were able to help me develop and hone my craft as an entrepreneur and learn a lot. In that, learning organizational culture, learning how structure is done, learning how to apply it, all the while understanding that it's not going to be the same as an entrepreneur because you don't have the same level of resources. But at least from a perspective of understanding the techniques, the theories, and how to approach the practical aspects of stuff, that was very important for me. So I looked at myself in those businesses as an entrepreneur. And an entrepreneur, for those of you who hitting the Google or hitting the Bard or hitting the ChatGPT right now to see what that is, really and truly in a short form is an entrepreneur inside of a large organization or inside of a business. So you in there really just trying to push, I would like to say entrepreneurial activity. You're trying to push innovation and these kind of things while you're in a big business, trying to solve problems, trying to find new markets, trying to find new ways to evolve and to really push the business forward. And that's actually leading on to where we both went to validate ourselves and our ideas and our craft. Big up to Autonomy Graduate School of Business or Global School of Business as it is called now. We are both graduates with master's level at the Business Development and Innovation Masters.
Survivors, we're survivors.
Survivors. Anyway.
But in this little introductory talk, I like how we covered, and so many things they spoke about there. Like, I'll just pick on one. The situation with Synergy. You didn't do any intellectual property protection when you just gave them the ideas, right?
And I have it, yeah.
Yeah,
But
so I mean, these are the type of things we're going to talk about. Right? That is it. We try to prevent the Form 2s now to avoid that mistake in the future. Right. So that's what the conversation is about. So many things that come up in the little introductions there that people should be excited about the podcast, because I really am. Because if I knew this information when I was a lot younger, I would probably be a lot more advanced than where I am right now, you know. So it's really, again, to give them the step up, because they have a lot of challenges and obstacles that we didn't have. We had obstacles, but they have a lot more than us. So we have to be a little bit more passionate towards them and give them a little bly.
Of course. And I mean, in terms of, just to wrap up on myself, I would have advanced having my own companies. And as Stuart said, some survived, some didn't. And we'll talk a lot more about why some entrepreneurial activities fail. Actually, we'll talk a lot about that, because it's something that happens to all entrepreneurs. And you have to understand what failure means. Is it that you're just going to lie down and take the failure, or are you going to take the key lessons and pivot and go again with another project, another idea, another business that you're going to start up? So as Stuart said, we're happy to have you guys listening. We're happy to have you guys on board. First episode 1 is ready. Getting to know us, getting to know your hosts. You can check out our LinkedIn bios. We're going to put all the different information as well online about ourselves. We probably will put up some proper bios and that kind of thing.
Show notes.
And in show notes. So you guys could get to learn about us some more. But it's not about us. It's about you. And tonight's episode is all about the life of an entrepreneur, because we say, hey, 2024, we might as well start off with a bang, start off setting the foundation for all the entrepreneurs and intrapreneurs out there, so that, you know, if anything that we said in the last 10 or 15 minutes resonated with you guys, now is the time that your interest would really be piqued, because you say, hey boy, that man just like me, or this, you know, this happened to me as well, or I'm going through that right now. You know, you're facing some projects in the workplace, because you mentioned the way that the world is right now. If you really look at it, Stuart, a lot of these jobs out there, because I know you scan the job market as well from time to time, a lot of these jobs, and when you look at the job advertisements and job descriptions, they are asking employees to come in and do entrepreneurial things in their organizations. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, you have to wear 5-6 hats for half of our salary. And you have to find all the opportunities, generate all the income, and I mean, you could do it for yourself. That's the way I am. I always say, if I could do it for you, I could do it for myself. Why am I letting you control my quality of life? You're controlling how much income I have. You're controlling basically what kind of place I could live in, if I could rent, or if I could buy a house. You're controlling how much children I could have, because you're controlling my life with the amount of income you're giving me. And since I'm in primary school, I know I could make more money. So,
yeah. and you're still at the plum tree.
And I still have the plum tree. And I'm planting other things too. So come on.
I mean, everybody's dream is different. Some people want to excel in organizations and go to the highest levels. And, you know, I think at some point we all had those same dreams. But still, this is why it's important, because understanding how to analyze and assess your current situation, your future state, and where you're going to be going with your ideas, and understanding if those ideas are viable opportunities. This is what the podcast is all about.
Entrepreneurship, it's all game. The Big Potato Podcast is yours to claim.
So we've spoken about our backgrounds, and now we are going to jump quickly to a quick definition or a quick understanding of what entrepreneurship is, because we know we have listeners of all ages and all categories. So sometimes, you just want to hear it from a different person, from a layman's term. What is entrepreneurship? So I'll leave that up to my boy Stuart, because he is the definition master.
All right. I like that. I like that description. But, entrepreneurship, basically, people in Trinidad, the Caribbean, we like to say terms you don't understand. Entrepreneurship is one, innovation is another one.
Oh boy.
Yeah, so I think it's important, at least for the start. This is episode 1, so at least we could get the groundwork in. Everyone has the same definition, the same understanding. So when we're discussing these things moving forward, everyone is on the same page. Let me start with innovation, because innovation and entrepreneurship are very much tied together. So there's something called an invention, which is a new product, something new, a new product or a new service, some invention you create. But that invention is only an invention unless it could be transformed into a sustainable long-term business, income generating business. So the person who invented the light bulb was the inventor. The person who turned it into a business is the innovator. So the innovator is the person who brought the product into a business setting. So
bring it into the market.
So there's no entrepreneurship without the innovation. If you have the entrepreneurship without the innovation, you're just running a business. You're not really an entrepreneur. So there's a businessman and there's an entrepreneur. So entrepreneurship is you bring out an innovation and you're turning that into a sustainable long-term business. That is what entrepreneurs do. They don't just sell what everybody else is selling and copy and paste and everything. They actually try to find new markets, new opportunities, and
new ways to use the same product.
Yes.
That kind of thing.
Be innovative and generate income. So that generally is what an entrepreneur will be. That's what our innovation will be. So, why it will lead into why is important. We explain how we came to the point where we became entrepreneurs, but why is it important for the listeners? It's because I believe that entrepreneurship is what will save the country in terms of the bringing of the innovation into the country, the creation of jobs, the self-reliance, the more people trying to find the best problem to solve. That will only lead to improvement and benefits to the country. So that's why I feel so strongly about innovation, entrepreneurship. And that's why I think the podcast is so important for the youth so that they will know, okay, there are these opportunities. Let's find these problems. Let's solve these problems. Let's solve these pains. And let's generate income, generate employment, generate tax revenue for the government. There's no one loses really.
And you hit on two key things. And the first one I would like to touch on there is extremely important because you always hear when there's some kind of global economic problem, whether it be a recession especially, what do they always say? How do we get out of this recession? Most times they don't look at the big major corporations and so on. They usually would say, hey, entrepreneurship and the entrepreneurs are what, is going to get us out of this state. The economists out there might be here, man. They might be saying, hey, but who's this man? What nonsense he talking? But some may beg to differ. What's your thoughts on that?
Again, as you mentioned, with the environment, where we live in the landscape right now, with AI taking jobs, all these things happening, you have to have the entrepreneurship. You have to have the children find other ways because they're in school preparing for jobs that are not going to exist when they come out. So it's about, again, finding the best problems to solve and getting Gen Z to understand that there's a bigger picture than what they taught in school. In school, at least from our perspective in our region, they're more teaching you to be a good employee. So it's really about you finding your own path, having the confidence, the passion, the drive to go your own direction and make things happen on your own. And not on your own, but with your team.
With your team, which is something very important we'll also talk about when we get to the characteristics in a bit. But the second thing that you mentioned just now, which was key, is problem solving and looking for the best problems to solve, which essentially is what any great entrepreneur would do. Really understanding what their target audience wants, what the key problems are, and how they're going to address that. Because, for example, we could look at any major product out there. Look at Nike, for example, and the history of it. It started off with that guy wanting running shoes. Mm-hmm. The founder, Mr. Phil Knight.
The waffle soles.
Yeah. He couldn't find, he was a runner, and he couldn't find the appropriate running shoes to be comfortable, etc., etc. So when he looked at it, he said, it is just the short form. You could go and look it up yourself. When he couldn't find what he was looking for, he told himself, well, you know what? Better I make it myself. And he asked himself the question that every proper entrepreneur would ask. I wonder how many other people having this problem. Because remember, when you're looking for the best problems to solve, it must be scalable. It mustn't be that, hey, Stuart, Mr. Charles, and myself having this problem. And it's just the three of us.
In the whole world.
In the whole world, right? In the whole stratosphere. The three of us have this problem. But what impact does it have on the global scene? What impact does it have really on the lives of everybody else? They really don't care. So, you really need to find your niche and understand that. But I wouldn't get too deep into that as yet, because I know we heading down into those things a little later on. But definitely finding the right problems to solve I would say is key. Understanding and problems exist around us every single day. When you look at the products that we have, we stand up here in a state-of-the-art studio, and I could just look around the studio and tell myself 20 years ago, we may not have even known that we needed some of these items inside of here or some of these programs that we're using. And that is where, people who were in this kind of business, recording and studios and so on, started having problems and looking at it and saying, you know what? I think we need to have this program. I need we need to have this product. We need to get this pop filter here for the mic that would help with this, that, and the other. And when you look at how many different people using it, then you start understanding, or having that problem, I should say, then you start understanding, all right, maybe I have a niche here that I could approach.
I just want to back you up on that statement there in terms of the problem solving. If you look at the GoPro situation, it was a surfer. He went in Australia and was surfing, and he wanted to be able to capture the waves as he's surfing, and he strapped up this camera to his helmet and made a little something, and that turned into GoPro, which turned into a multi-million-dollar company, which isn't doing as well as it used to, but that is the entrepreneur. Seeing the problem and understand, okay, as I said, is this a scalable business? Is this problem me alone, or many people have the same problem that would be able to, when they buy the product, we'd have something long-term, sustainable business. As I said, the entrepreneurship is the innovation. It has to be long-term, not just today and it disappears tomorrow.
Must be sustainable.
An iron life jacket might look shiny, but it's not really
practical.
It's not an innovation because it's not going to make money, it's not going to last. So the person won't have been an entrepreneur.
With an iron life jacket.
That is it. So that is the absurdity of the example I given, right? But I just want to reinforce. So the GoPro was that guy solving the problem for being able to capture the images of the waves while he's surfing. The person who created the spandex, the lady, she wanted to have a exercise outfit that was stretch and be comfortable and breathable and
absorb sweat and
the whole stimulated me. So she created the material and now a multi-billionaire. She found us a problem that she needed, that she thought that multiple people will suffer with, and she found the solution for it. And that's the end of the story.
I think one of the greatest stories I've ever heard because of how simple the product is that it's called it for the pens in your pocket.
Pocket pen protector. Pocket protectors, yes.
I mean, when you think about it, is absolutely ingenious. I mean, because now we take it for granted. You just put a pen in your pocket. Long ago, the pens weren't structured the way they are now. You think dealing with a lot of ink, you're dealing with pens with no covers and fountain pens and heavy ink pens and so on. And you're getting all these stains on your clothes all the time. So as simple, and I really wanted to draw that because people hear innovation and they usually just jump to high level things, highly technological, highly technical and all these things. Just think about a pocket pad that you're putting between your pen and your shirt, or your shirt and so on, just to make sure that ink doesn't stain the material on it. And think about how innovative that would have been at the time.
But you also have to realize that some things would be innovative for a time. Because that is now an obsolete item.
Well, we could talk about a lot of those, film,
Kodak, and all of these things. So, yes, there's a lot of good points you're raising with that one comment you made there.
So, I mean, let's get into the meat of it. When we talking on entrepreneurship, I hope we really warm any appetite up for it, all you entrepreneurs and people with the ideas out there. And be sure, as I said, to send us your feedback as well. We're going to drop the handles and you could send us your emails or your comments.
Entrepreneurship, it's all game. The Big Potato Podcast is yours to claim.
When we talking entrepreneurship, what is some of the characteristics that we look for in entrepreneurs? Now, we spoke about ourselves. We spoke about some use cases in terms of Nike. We spoke a little bit about spandex, GoPro, and so on. So these are known products. And there are some similarities, I think, within all entrepreneurs. Before you even get started, you kind of ask yourself the question, am I an entrepreneur? Am I willing to get into this? So when we talking characteristics, that's where I want to lead to right now, because I want you guys who are listening, all the listeners over there, to kind of let us know and ask yourself more so, am I an entrepreneur? Do I have these characteristics?
Well, that's an important question to ask, because if you try to be an entrepreneur without those characteristics, you're going to quit at some point in time. Entrepreneurs, we are a special breed. We have passion, conviction, tenacity. We are risk takers. We have a strong locus of control, meaning we really believe we could control our futures. So
Believe it.
We believe it. We believe it. Nothing is luck. You create your luck out there. So to be an entrepreneur, as I said, all of them should have shared similar personality traits, which generally you could actually Google. I mean, again, it's not a classroom, so you could Google it and you'll know there are traits of an entrepreneur, specific traits. I'll just list a few of them. So you always have a need for achievement. You have autonomy. You want to feel like in power. You're very much into endurance and taking risks. Those are some of the characteristics. So if it is you're not a risk taker, it's better you stay with your job. It's better you stay with your boss. Let them take the risk and you be stable and comfortable and go to sleep nice in the night. Because again, as an entrepreneur,
but
you have your...
That's the thing. Sorry to cut here, but that's the thing. As I said earlier, now these jobs want you to come in and take the risk. They want you to come in and bring the ideas and to execute them and to analyze them and to assess them. So even if you're listening to this podcast and maybe you're not or you think you're an entrepreneur because you don't have your own idea that you're pursuing, you're working for a company, you're an entrepreneur because the same leaders expect you to take these risks. It's just that you're not doing it with your money.
But so are you taking the risk?
Right.
You're taking risks with their money.
Which your job might be on the line for. So,
sure.
There is some risk there, but those are some of the main characteristics here. That need for the autonomy. You really want to be in control. Your level of risk, are you a big risk taker? I know entrepreneurs out here, some of them are extreme risk takers when you look at some of these stories of entrepreneurs and you really look at it and they say, I started this business with no money, or I had to, take this amount of money from somebody without even knowing I was going to pay them back.
Yeah.
Right? And that kind of thing and really taking extreme risks. And then there are those.
And then it's brand risk too, eh? Your own personal character. People will say, he always making boss business.
Yeah. So, everything he can bring out fail.
Yeah. So there's a lot of risk.
Yeah. And I mean, it also entails a lot of curiosity and research and understanding, because when it comes to entrepreneurship, as you know, you need to understand your market. You need to understand the people who you potentially are going to be selling your product to or your service to, and understand what their needs are, how they want it, what's their journey, and all these things. It's not just as simple as saying, all right, well, I think this is a good idea and I'm going to come out with that. There's a lot more in terms of the characteristics of an entrepreneur before you even get to that stage. Are you willing to experiment? Are you in it for the long term? A lot of people, they want a quick buck. And they call themselves entrepreneurs, but are they really entrepreneurs? When it is, they say, all right, well, you know what? I'm just going to go on Amazon. I'm going to bring down these 10 things here, go down in town. I'm going to sell that, or even not even go down in town. No, it's just go on IG, bump a page, post them.
Go on the go TT, sell your stuff.
You understand? And all of a sudden, you want to know, well, why is this not performing the way that I thought it would? Did you do the research? Did you think about what your customer looks like, what they want, and all these things?
Is the product solving a problem?
Thank you. Is it fitted for your market? Understanding all these things. So curiosity, and as I said, research, innovative thinking. I want to say, quote unquote, comfort with failure, because as an entrepreneur, you are going to stumble. I'm not going to say you are going to fail. You may, but you are going to stumble and fumble.
Well, I'll say failure is only failure if you don't put the learnings into your lessons learned folder.
Thank you.
If you just leave it as failure and you repeat those mistakes again, well then yeah. But you have to have your lessons learned folder. That's actual folder you have to create. And every lesson you learn, keep adding to it so that you don't make those mistakes again.
And I mean, if you don't believe us, we are going to be bringing guests on in the future episodes who are huge global entrepreneurs, and they're going to give you their insights. And I'm pretty sure, I just have a feeling that they're going to reinforce or even validate and add to a lot of the stuff that we're saying here in terms of this introductory episode and where we're going. So this is where we want to lead to your understanding of self first before you even get to jumping into it.
Yeah, I want to talk on tenacity again, because even if you have your plan, as Mike Tyson said, you have your plan until they get coffee in your face. And then you have to figure it out. So you could have the best plan in the world, again, COVID, right? Best plan in the world, and then all of a sudden, my last business that was launched like a few months before COVID came and shut down the country. So you're right. You have to have tenacity and you have to push through, and then you have to know when to decide, well, okay, I could always relaunch this, rebrand this in the future, but onto a new project. But you have to have the tenacity or else you would never get through, because this is something you have to be working 24/7. As I said, with my scenario, I have 36 hours in a day. So it's 36/7. You have to be pushing every day. You have to wake up. What wrong with my business? What going to make my business fail? You have to wake up that thought in your mind every day. What are doing wrong? What assumption I have here that not right? What I don't know. You have to have that every day.
What I don't know that I don't know, a very important aspect of entrepreneurship. Big up to
the new business road test.
Yes. So, as we say, tenacity, and on the other side of that tenacity is really adaptability based on what you're talking about, because you have to adapt. You have to pivot.
When you get punched in your face, you can't stand up and take our next one.
Thank you. As we said, there are so many key examples out here of businesses that did not stand the test of time because they failed to adapt with the changes in the economy, the changes in political systems and geopolitical issues, with the changes in technology. I mean, a lot of companies, big companies, would not have made it. You mentioned Kodak earlier, and at the same time, you could look at other companies who did the same, who had the same types of products as Kodak, but they were able to adapt and really come with the second wave of what their business was becoming and advance themselves.
Well, just a touch on the Kodak so people will understand what we're saying. So we're discussing the move from the film camera to the digital camera. Kodak had the assumption that people always want to have physical photos. That's just how people wired. We see how that went. So you have to be able to see the trends, see the technologies, as Kendell said, how it's is evolving, and move with the times. You always have to reinvest in the R&D. As an entrepreneur, you can't just say, I'm happy, I'm stagnant here, and this is how it's going to be forever. It's never going to be like that.
Ever. And if it is, you have that in mind, then you may not be an entrepreneur.
Get a job.
So, I mean, those are some of the main characteristics. My key takeaway from that would be that before you even involve yourself in any type of entrepreneurial activity, this is not a theoretical thing, although there are theories and tests and frameworks that we could present to you. As I said, we have them tried and true and tested. But for the purpose of this podcast, I would just say to make sure and ask yourself the question first before you jump into any type of entrepreneurial activity. Am I an entrepreneur? Do I possess any of these characteristics? Do I need to do a little test, a self-test, a self-check just to make sure? Because understanding who you are, I think, is the first step, and what you're willing to do before. What are your motivations, in other words, before you even jump to anything else?
Well, I want to mention it quickly. There are a few tests you could check on their own, they could Google. I mean, these things will also be added to the show notes, right? But there's the Big 5 factor model, the Myers-Briggs type indicators. You could also check PSOK and MBS. These are paid. You have to pay for the results, but you could play around with it, see how they test. And I'll also include one of the free ones, a pretty good one, that I was playing around with, and they give you a pretty good score in terms of a detailed score and a detailed report in terms of how you would stand up as an entrepreneur. So, we'll include this information in the show notes, but you could feel free to check those links and see what sort of questions they ask you.
For sure. So make sure and check out the show notes. And as I said, do your self-check first and really understand yourself before jumping into it, because you don't want to jump into it. You're not ready. You're lacking some of the characteristics that would really make you an entrepreneur, which is fine. Not everybody's cut out for it. But you really have to understand self first before you start to approach your idea and the market.
Entrepreneurship, it's all game. The Big Potato Podcast is yours to claim.
So we spoke about some of the internal characteristics of an entrepreneur and what you need to do your self-test and analyze within yourself. But of course, that's not all. There are some external factors, many external factors that you must consider, when you're getting into entrepreneurship. What would you say are some of those, Stuart?
Okay, so as you said, there are characteristics that you yourself would have to analyze and know if you have those traits of an entrepreneur.
But there are more competencies.
But there are more. These are the things that you might not have control of because you may be too young or inexperienced, but these things will come with time. And the good thing is there are older, more experienced people as well, so you could always find a mentor to help you where you're short, right? But two important elements would be knowledge and capabilities. Your knowledge of the market, the environment, the people, production, and finance. Then there are capabilities. Again, are you mature enough to be able to manage, motivate, organize, plan, these sort of things? So yes, you may have the characteristics, you may be willing to take the risks, and you may have all the tenacity and all of these things, but unless you're able to master these other elements or bring in people who have these strengths.
Importance of the team.
The importance of the team, bringing in people who are able to add value to your vision where you are short, then your characteristics themselves wouldn't stand up. It wouldn't be enough for you to be a great entrepreneur. You would have the starting point then. You yourself have the traits to become a great entrepreneur. But again, you need, as Kendell said, you need to put a team together. Wherever you're short, get your professionals, mentors or consultants, and put together the team that will be able to make up the shortcomings of knowledge of the market, the environment, as I mentioned before.
And that's the thing that I mentioned earlier when I was giving my brief bio. That was the area in the earlier part of my life that I thought I was lacking in. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to control, as I said, my own destiny in terms of my career. But I didn't think at the time that I had adequate knowledge and understanding of the market and understanding of this and that and the other. So you know what I did? I say, hey, better go to some of the leaders in this thing and learn it. Right? Mm-hmm. And I remember in my interview, actually, for my very first job in one of those conglomerates, that was exactly what I told the recruiter. I want to develop my business acumen. And that was very important to me. So these are not all traits that you're born with, but they're definitely traits that you could develop over time. And no, I'm not saying that you have to go and work in a big company or, Stuart mentioned having a mentor, get a coach. Of course, most importantly, you don't need to go and get a master's or a degree or any of these kind of things either. But as an entrepreneur, as I mentioned earlier, you must have the tenacity to do research. Reading is extremely important, and developing your understanding and knowledge from a global perspective and understanding what is really out there. So make sure that you develop that knowledge and understanding before you move on to anything else, because you may have all the other characteristics, as Stuart said, but do you have the knowledge to really execute your idea? Do you have the capabilities? And whereas you may not have them and you may want to develop them for yourself, that is one aspect. But you could also, which is highly recommended, find the experts and develop your team.
Well, let me ask you one question. It might be a difficult question. If you had to put like a ratio between education and experience, and to determine what will play a bigger factor in an entrepreneur's success, what you would say?
Experience. I would give the heavier edge to. Maybe a ratio, I would say probably a 70-30. In my experience, a lot of what I was able to do was based on experience. A lot of what I know now is based on experience and actually doing it and experiencing it, failing, getting back up and going again. What was your experience in that?
I asked you because to me it's a difficult question.
Oh, I understand. Hey, you say asking me the tough
I asked you.
I don't say.
All right, let me try.
You want to ask the definitions, and I will be the answer of difficult questions for the podcast. But don't worry yourself.
Let me try. I would agree with you, but this is difficult because even with you could have all the experience, because I had a lot of experience, but is it an experience in what?
Yeah.
And you still don't know what you don't know.
Correct.
So you might be a master of 25%.
Yeah.
You know, when you could go get the education, all of a sudden you're operating at 85%, which is a big increase. So it's difficult. But I might even say 50-50.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'm a put my name on something. I will say it is 65% experience, 35% education.
And we'll leave it right
I will
there.
leave it there.
And you guys,
Stamp that,
you let us
certified.
know. What's your thoughts, in terms of that experience versus education when it comes specifically to entrepreneurship? To all the entrepreneurs listening, we want to know your feedback. We want to know your thoughts. Let us know. Of course, you could send us an email at the Big Potato Podcast at gmail.com. Send us your feedback, send us your thoughts, send us your comments. You could also send us, for you young and budding entrepreneurs, any thoughts that you have, any ideas that you have that you're saying, hey, we want, you guys sounding like you know what you're doing. We want to kind of discuss our idea a little bit and, help me walk through this thing. I know people are not. This is the next thing we'll talk about in the next episode. People are very protective of their ideas when they're coming out. And when you're an entrepreneur, it's extremely important for you to remember the idea might be yours, but you're bringing a product out into the market. Don't be too secretive about it.
And at the end of the day, your idea is your idea. So for instance,
you think about it,
the way you think about it, how you look into the color, everything is yours. So you might explain something to someone else and they will bring out a totally different product to what you envision. So don't be afraid. And then you assuming that these people have interest in what you want to do, which is a big assumption.
Correct.
They mightn't even care. So get the feedback, know who you're speaking to, know what you're sharing with them, obviously.
Yep.
But don't be too worried about it.
Yeah, don't take it personal either. Very, very important. So like, follow, subscribe, and listen, of course, at the Big Potato Podcast across the board, Spotify, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, you name it. We are there. Check it out. Just want to shout out to some people, Ibomac. Whether you're seeking guidance or solutions for your business, we are here to help. Contact us via Ibomac. That's IBOMAQ868@gmail.com. Let's discuss how we could collaborate for your success. Also, be sure it's a new year to check out From Ibadan to Hell Yard. It explores important times in our history, like when slavery ended and how the steel pan was invented. It emphasizes how significant the steel pan was in creating the unique Trini identity, and ultimately, it follows Trinidad and Tobago's journey to becoming independent. All right, so check it out today.
Who wrote that book?
You could get your copy on the OnTheGo app, and that's OnTheGo TT. And I think the same guy who has the OnTheGo TT is the same guy who wrote the Ibadan to Hell Yard, who is the same guy who is the master of the definitions, Mr. Stuart Fortuny, who is, is a pleasure and honor to be his co-host here tonight. Also, Lime Juve, book your packages for the biggest lime on the road, Juve Morning. You could get those packages, of course, on OnTheGo TT. Download the app, check it out, go shopping, get your package for Lime Juve, biggest lime on the road, Juve Morning. I seen you out there?
Yeah, that's the ultimate lime on the road. That is the ultimate lime on the road. I'll be spending my time really with Hell Yard, Trinidad All-Stars for the Juve, but I will spend most of my night with Lime Juve.
So no podcast, Juve Morning?
Yeah, podcast wherever.
Alright, so thank you guys.
Hope you all enjoyed it and I hope you all learned something.
Most importantly.
Entrepreneurship, it's all game. The Big Potato Podcast is yours to claim.